Okay, I'm happy to say that John Bosnitch, political commentator, is joining us live now from Belgrade, capital of Serbia, to speak more on the situation and the developments overnight and through the day. Hi there, John. A Russian lawmaker has claimed that the US strike resembled other American interventions, referring to Yugoslavia's bombing, among others. You're, of course, speaking to us from Serbia, as I said. What do you make of that comparison?
Well, the main difference here is that Trump has just barely taken over his own administration, and we're not even certain whether President Trump is fully in control of the decision-making process in the United States. His chief campaign aide has been removed from the Security Advisory Council. Several of his key advisors have been pushed aside, so one can't yet be sure whether Trump himself is fully in charge of this decision-making process. That's the big difference. When the bombing took place here in the former Yugoslavia, the plans were set in motion months in advance. This looks like an ad hoc operation coming out of Washington today.
Yeah, the US carried out the attack without the approval, we know, of the UN Security Council, without the permission of the Syrian government as well, a fellow UN member, should we forget. Is this a clear violation of international law?
If international law has any meaning anymore, yes, of course it is. You can't bomb another sovereign country, no matter what the grounds. First, you would have to have the permission of the country's own government. Second, if it involved a disputed issue, you would have to refer it to the UN Security Council, and the Security Council would have to conduct an investigation. What's happened here has been a rush to bombing without even an investigation of who was responsible for the chemical weapons incident, nor any kind of a coordination between the two governments. And we do have, and that's between the U.S. and Syrian government. But the other factor here is we have the government of Russia, where President Putin has been in charge well over a decade, and his organization and his machine is moving smoothly and in coordination with the Syrian government. We cannot say that about Washington. And in fact, in Washington today, many people are asking, who made this decision?
It was actually said at that UN Security Council, John, the pictures of which we've been showing throughout the broadcast, that there's no evidence on who or how the chemical attack was carried out. It leads to the question, therefore, why is Washington and its allies acting before a UN investigation?
Well, you know, not to go too deep into the speculation, because we could imagine any possibilities here. The first and most obvious would be that perhaps American intelligence personnel know that the Syrian government was not responsible for the chemical weapons incident, but chose to flip-flop this incident into a means to engage Trump in aggressive military action. That could be, in other words, a continuing battle between the deep state and the newly elected president chosen by the people of America. That's the first option. The second option is that nobody knows who conducted the chemical weapons incident, and that the United States has gone in a rush to judgment, which is quite strange given the United States' concepts of fair trial, fair hearing, and democratic participation in decision-making. So either of these two possibilities are negative for the United States. The third one, that perhaps the Syrian government conducted this incident, still wouldn't be grounds for unilateral action by the United States. And furthermore, if the Syrian government conducted the chemical weapons attack, one would have to ask why. They've effectively won this war. They were mopping up the resistance from ISIS and from other jihadi extremist groups. They were within weeks of what would look like a complete victory, and to suddenly provoke international attacks upon them makes no sense at all. And I don't hear anybody suggesting that Assad is insane.
And
no
strategically,
one is that, so I cannot conclude that he made this decision.
Well, strategically, the Idlib region was not all that important in the light of all the tragedy after that. Of course, it's become very much so. One other point here: a senior Russian lawmaker has suggested that the Pentagon did not agree with Trump's stance on Assad previously, because we heard from the Secretary of State, we heard from other US officials and from President Trump himself that he was not against a presidential election, for instance, happening in Syria and for President Assad being president in that meantime. But now the opposite has occurred. Was there pressure put on him? Is that a possibility, do you think?
You know, at this stage in the game, anything is possible. President Trump is very newly in office. He has not yet had the time to establish his own operations. He is relying on a military, especially military and intelligence infrastructure that was created and run now for decades by the people he defeated in the election. So we have the Clinton administration, followed by the Bush administration, followed by the Obama administration, all following the same policy. They've had almost 30 years to infiltrate and establish whatever kind of infrastructure they like. It cannot be cleaned up by Trump in a matter of 3 months. There is a big battle ahead of us, and it's not in Syria, it's in Washington.
John Bosnitch, political commentator, we appreciate your thoughts and your time and coming on the programme this hour. Thank you.